Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
There was an old arcade tucked away in a forgotten corner of the city, the kind of place that didn't show up on any map and had a flickering neon sign that buzzed like it was about to give up on life. It was called Pixel Realm, and most people assumed it was just another relic from the 80s, long past its prime. But some nights, the few who dared step inside never quite came back the same, if they came back at all. One evening, a group of friends, Jake, Mia, and Tyler, heard rumors about Pixel Realm being haunted, or cursed, or something worse. Jake, the thrill seeker, convinced them to check it out, promising it would be the ultimate rush. The door creaked open to the smell of stale popcorn and old dust, and the glow of countless arcade machines cast eerie shadows on the cracked tile floor. As they wandered through rows of forgotten games, a new machine caught their eyes. It wasn't in any of the cabinets, nor did it look like any ordinary game. It was sleek, black, with no name, just a blinking start button. The screen pulsed with a dark red glow, and the joystick felt unusually cold to the touch. Tyler, curious, pressed the start button. The screen flashed, and suddenly the room grew silent, except for the clicking of the joystick. The game was simple at first, a pixelated maze where a small figure had to avoid ghosts. But the ghosts weren't like any normal arcade enemies. They had distorted, almost human-like faces, twisted in agony. As Tyler played, the friends noticed something odd. The faces in the game started resembling people from their town. One ghost had the exact face of the barista they'd seen earlier that day. Another looked disturbingly like Jake himself. The pixelated maze grew darker, the walls closing in, and the ghosts moved faster, more aggressive. Suddenly, the screen flashed again, and the room around them warped. They were no longer in the arcade, but trapped inside the game itself, or so it felt. Their bodies were stiff, their voices muffled as if trapped underwater. The joystick rattled in Tyler's trembling hands, but no matter what he did, the maze's exit never appeared. Maya screamed, but it sounded like a broken echo from far away. Jake's face twisted in panic as one ghost, pixelated but horrifyingly real, reached out from the screen and whispered his name. It wasn't just a game anymore, it was a prison, and each second they remained meant another fragment of their real selves slipped away. One by one, the friends realized the terrible truth. The game didn't just trap players inside the machine, it harvested their souls to power the arcade's cursed energy. The more they tried to escape, the deeper they sank into the nightmarish maze. Days later, the arcade's neon sign flickered on again, brighter than ever. A new high score flashed on the black machine screen, written in a shaky pixel font, JTM 999999. But no one ever saw Jake, Mia, or Tyler again. And if you ever find yourself alone in Pixel Realm, don't touch the black machine. Because the next time the screen blinks red, it might just be your name waiting to haunt the maze forever.
Story number 2.
Late one summer night, a group of friends, Mark, Jenna, and Luis, decided to stop by an old, rundown arcade on the edge of town. The place was tucked away behind a strip mall, long forgotten and almost swallowed by shadows. The flickering neon sign buzzed weakly, the letters missing a few parts, but still spelling out Pixel Palace. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of stale popcorn and something metallic, like rusted machinery. The machines all hummed quietly, their screens casting eerie glows in the dim room. Most were old classics, Pac-Man, Galaga, Donkey Kong, but in the far corner, hidden beneath a torn curtain, was a machine none of them had ever seen before. Its cabinet was a dull black, chipped and scarred, with no name or branding on it. The screen was cracked, but it flickered faintly, as if inviting them to play. Mark, always the brave one, nudged Jenna and Luis. "Let's try that one, it looks weird." They approached cautiously, the arcade noise fading into an unsettling silence around the machine. Mark dropped a coin into the slot. The machine whirred to life, the cracked screen brightening. The game started with a pixelated figure standing in a dark maze. "Looks like a simple maze game," Mark said, grabbing the joystick. But as he moved the character, the maze began to change. Walls seemed to warp and twist unnaturally, and shadows crept along the edges of the screen. Suddenly, the screen flashed and a message appeared. "Find the exit, or stay forever." Jenna laughed nervously, but Luis felt a chill run down his spine. Mark kept playing, but the game wasn't responding normally. The joystick felt sticky, and the character moved slower as if trapped. The maze grew darker, and pixelated figures began to appear, twisted, faceless shapes that lurked just out of reach. Every time Mark tried to back out or turn off the machine, the screen would glitch violently, showing distorted images of their faces staring back at them, eyes wide with terror, mouths frozen in silent screams. Jenna reached out to pull Mark away, but her hand passed through him like smoke. Luis grabbed her shoulder, his voice barely a whisper. "We shouldn't be here." The arcade around them seemed to fade, the room warping until the only thing left was the cold glow of the cursed machine. Mark's face on the screen began to morph. His pixelated avatar looked more real, his eyes blinking slowly, mirroring Mark's own terrified expression. Suddenly, the joystick jerked violently on its own. Mark was dragged forward, his body stiff and unresponsive. Jenna and Luis tried to pull him back, but their hands met nothing but cold air. Then the screen went black. For a long moment, nothing moved. The arcade returned to normal, the distant clinks and dings of other machines humming softly. But Mark was gone. Jenna and Luis fled, calling for help, but no one believed them. When the police searched the arcade the next day, they found the mysterious machine unplugged and covered in dust, as if untouched for years. No sign of Mark. Some say on quiet nights, you can still hear the joystick twitching on that forgotten arcade machine. And if you dare look into its cracked screen, you'll see the pixelated face of a trapped player, begging silently to be freed, but warning you not to press start.
Story number 3.
There was an old arcade on the edge of town, the kind nobody really paid attention to anymore. It was tucked between a rundown movie theater and a pawn shop, with flickering neon lights that buzzed erratically, casting uneasy shadows on the cracked sidewalk. The place was called Pixel Haven, and it had been there since the 80s, long past its prime but still stubbornly alive. Kids rarely went there anymore, except for a few brave teenagers who dared each other to enter late at night. One Friday evening, a group of friends, Mark, Lisa, and Jeremy, decided to check out Pixel Haven after hearing rumors about a mysterious new game that had appeared on one of the machines. Nobody knew where it came from or who put it there, but the rumor was that the game was so immersive it felt almost real. Of course, being teenagers, they wanted to test it out. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of stale popcorn and something else, something metallic and cold. The arcade was almost empty, except for a few tired employees behind the counter and the faint hum of machines waiting for players. At the far end of the room, tucked in a dark corner, stood the newest addition, a vintage-looking cabinet that wasn't there the day before. The screen was flickering with static, but when Mark approached, the screen suddenly cleared to reveal a pixelated cityscape, dark, twisted, and eerily silent. Mark dropped a coin into the slot, and the screen glitched before showing the title, Shadow Circuit. The joystick felt sticky in his hands as he began to play. The game's setting was strange, a city trapped in permanent night with shadows crawling along every surface. At first, it was just a typical arcade game. Avoid the enemies, collect items, survive. But then things started to change. The city on the screen began to resemble their own town, with street signs and buildings they recognized from their neighborhood. The game's pixelated character moved through streets that matched real locations. Lisa watched uneasily, telling Mark to stop, but he was hooked. The screen flickered again, and suddenly the character stopped in front of a pixelated arcade cabinet, an exact replica of Pixel Haven. Mark's character moved inside the arcade, and Lisa noticed something terrifying. The pixelated friends inside the game looked like them. The screen flashed a warning in glitchy text. "You are inside the game. Escape or be trapped forever." Mark laughed it off, thinking it was a clever trick, but then the arcade lights dimmed and the room around them grew colder. Jeremy suddenly vanished. His seat was empty, and no one else in the arcade seemed to notice. Lisa screamed, but the sound felt muffled, as if the world itself was drowning out her cries. Mark's hands trembled on the joystick as his character was cornered by shadowy figures, distorted shapes that whispered in static-filled voices. The more he played, the more the game world started bleeding into reality. The pixelated enemies appeared at the edges of his vision, flickering like ghosts, creeping closer in the real arcade. Suddenly, Mark's reflection in the arcade screen wasn't his own anymore. It was distorted, with hollow eyes and a twisted grin. He realized too late that the game wasn't just a game. It was a trap, a digital prison for anyone who played it. The shadow figures reached out from the screen, pulling him into the flickering void. Lisa was left alone, heart pounding, as the arcade lights returned to normal. She ran outside, but the town felt different, quieter, darker, as if a part of it had been erased. She called the police, but when they arrived, there was no sign of Mark or Jeremy, only the old Pixel Haven arcade, standing silent and lifeless. Weeks later, people started reporting strange sightings near the arcade, faint pixelated figures lurking in the shadows, whispers coming from empty machines, and a new game appearing on the cabinet, Shadow Circuit 2. No one dared play it, but those who stared too long said they could see faces trapped behind the screen, begging to be freed, or warning others not to enter. And sometimes, late at night, if you listen closely near the arcade, you can hear the faintest sound of a joystick clicking and a voice whispering, "Press start or join us forever."